project today, and I do want to welcome everyone. And thank you all for coming today, taking time out of your busy days for this very important press conference. Through CDBG, economic development, housing, infrastructure, and public service projects have been possible throughout the city of Elizabeth. It has enabled us to create new resources, implement vital programs, and provide overall assistance to improve the quality of life for all the Elizabeth residents. In recent weeks, the President has proposed a complete elimination of this program, which will have a severe negative impact on the efficiency and effectiveness of our local organizations. Elizabeth has a long-standing commitment to providing the best care and service for our residents, and abolishing this program is not the answer. Today we're here from various individuals representing government, private-public partnerships, and the community sector on how these CDBG funds made these programs possible. Before we begin, however, I would like to thank my dedicated staff for putting this press conference together, as well as all the work that they do throughout the year to ensure this initiative is a success, and for putting up with me also. So thank you all very much. I'd now like to invite CDBG's biggest supporter to the podium, our Mayor J. Christian Bowich.
Thank you very much, Director. It's good to be with all of you here today, and I'm not going to introduce all of the elected officials, as I'm going to ask them to speak along the way, because this is an extremely important fight that we have on our hands with Community Development Block Grant. I am going to recognize the County Manager of Union, Manager Al Fiella. Thank you, Al, for coming here today. We appreciate it. The Council President's here as well, Councilman Carlos Torres. Thank you for being here. You know, and every year for the last 40 some odd years, cities across this nation have gathered to celebrate the success of the program. This is the 43rd year of Community Development Block Grant, which was started under President Richard Nixon. As many of you know, the implementation of this initiative by the Department of Community Development, Eduardo Rodriguez as a director, it's helped us provide assistance to first-time home buyers. It's made funding available for necessary infrastructure programs, providing a safety presence in our neighborhoods, and create recreational opportunities for our residents. And as you've heard, I have a hard time putting the word president and Trump in the same sentence. So therefore, the Chief Administrative Officer in Washington has chosen to eliminate this program from the budget. And all of us know that the impact of this CDBG funding has had in areas of interest. The direct federal CDBG dollars to Elizabeth for community development, we've been able to complete many projects that have once seemed unimaginable. It has not only provided funding for affordable housing, but for improvements such as parks, healthcare, child care facilities, neighborhood rehabilitation, public services for seniors, youth, and the disabled. And here we are in the coalition to shelter the homeless. And you're going to hear from Linda Flores-Tober at the end of the program. And we've worked with this organization throughout the years in community development block grant programs, whether it be to provide housing for constituents, whether it be to provide services here. And I got to tell you, the elimination of this program is going to cause a severe drain on an awful lot of help that not only our government provides, but the County of Union provides. I'd like to introduce one of our first speakers, and he's the assemblyman from this district, and he also hails from the city of Roselle, a former mayor of Roselle, someone who understands community development block grant and the importance in his city, and now as an assemblyman of the 20th district, how important it is throughout the entire region. Assemblyman Jamel Holly.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Those of you who normally would see me approach the mic, I'll normally say, let's go and let's get to action, but this is not one of those mornings. This is one of those mornings that we have to really bring it down a notch to really understand how serious this CDBG funding issue is. As the mayor mentioned, as a former mayor, I do recognize the importance of this type of program. And I would like to say, though, however, the city of Elizabeth is one of the national models that this country can never emulate in terms of a CDBG program. Eduardo, the director there, has mentioned some of the things that, the mayor's mentioned some of the things that the CBDG has funding, and it is very critical. During this time, thousands of cities across America have grown stronger, and countless organizations have become essential components of successful communities. From my tenure as mayor of Roselle to now being the current assemblyman of the 20th district, I've watched CDBG funding, always get those titles mixed up, CDBG funding create viable communities, provide affordable and suitable housing, and create jobs and opportunities for people in Roselle, Union County, and throughout the country. Reducing or eliminating this program, as President Trump, I can put him in the same sentence because I want folks to recognize as well what we're talking about here as well, has suggested will only negatively impact on the efficiency and effectiveness of our local organizations, as well as the services provided to our communities. In addition to the removal of these vital programs, staff will have to be drastically reduced and in some cases abolished completely due to lack of funding. We cannot just sit back and watch as the administration destroys the good work of all our community organizations that are doing the great work here in our community. And I wanted to just reaffirm my support and reaffirm my influence here as an elected official that we will continue to fight for CBDG funding, not only for Union County, but also for the state of New Jersey. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be here with you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Just to put some of these numbers together, this cut is part of a $6 billion or 13% reduction in fiscal 2018 budget for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It also includes $35 billion for HUD's rental assistance programs and proposes reforms to that program which will adversely impact the very building that we're in now. Without actual increases in funding, these programs cannot continue to adequately help the same number of people because of annual rent increases and inflation. In addition to housing, the well-known Meals on Wheels programs that would be hurt by the elimination of CDBG. He has proposed the complete elimination of Community Development Block Grant. These funding cuts will happen in the Department of Health and Human Services. And I have to tell you, we have some great partners in the Congress and the Senate. And I know they've gone back already to work in Washington, but Senator Booker and Senator Menendez and Congressman Series, who represent Elizabeth, have been great partners in this effort to maintain Community Development Block Grant. And on behalf of Senator Booker, I'd like to ask Ms. Katie Guinness to join us on the platform. Katie?
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. As the mayor said, unfortunately, Senator Booker is in Washington, D.C. and unable to attend today. He did ask me to share a few words on his behalf. As your United States Senator and as a former mayor, Senator Booker knows firsthand the critical importance of the Community Development Block Grant Program and the drastic impact its elimination would have on communities like Elizabeth. Over 4 decades, the CDBG program has been one of the federal government's most effective measures to revitalize communities across the country, including here in New Jersey's 4th largest municipality. CDBG funding supports homeownership, housing rehabilitations, public improvements, and economic development projects, while also encouraging and stimulating local investment. CDBG funding makes its way into local communities through an extensive network of local organizations and is a critical resource for families and for communities. Eliminating the program would shift the insurmountable cost of helping seniors live independently, strengthening families through homeownership, creating safer communities, and investing in our next generation. CDBG is exactly the type of program that New Jerseyans expect to see from the federal government, one that puts taxpayer dollars to good use in the communities that need it the most. As we traverse through Union County, we see the many projects that have been undertaken with these funds, including housing rehabilitation programs, senior health care programs, community center rehabilitation projects, and road resurfacing and streetscape projects. The CDBG program has partnered with many local, nonprofit, and community-based organizations, such as the YMCA, ARC of Union County, and the Center for Hope Hospice, in order to effect change in our community. The goals and investments made by the CDBG program are crucial to building a stronger city, county, and state. As a representative in Washington, Senator Booker will continue to be a staunch supporter of this essential funding. This program is so important to communities that depend on it to provide affordable and accessible housing, child and health care, programs for senior citizens, and infrastructure improvements. Thank you all for your advocacy and your continued support in this important fight. And thank you again for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much, Steve. We know that Senator Booker has been a great advocate of this program in Washington, and we thank him for his support. And losing the federal portion of this funding could mean serving just one meal instead of two to those seniors that are in need. This should not be an option in the United States of America. For the president to come in and eliminate these programs because he's trying to meet a budget without talking to constituents or organizations involved is quite alarming. As this presidency continues to unfold, many Americans are questioning the choices that they made last November. So where does that leave those who did not choose this path, along with those who did, but now regret their choice? I'd now like to introduce, not only he's our sheriff, but he's soon to be the senator from the 20th District, and is going to play a role in Community Development Block Grant, Mr. Joe Cryan.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everybody. I am continually astonished at, frankly, what I believe to be the absolute heartless agenda of a conservative philosophy that lets people literally not only fall off a helping ladder, but pushes them onto the side. And I think fundamentally, today we're here to continue another fight that basically says to someone like our president, budgets are not about numbers, they're about people. That's what they really are, and that's what the focus is. And this president, and I honestly believe that the conservative philosophy continually forgets the fact that we're all part of the same America. And we're all part of this opportunity where we're all supposed to be doing better. Here in New Jersey, for years, we have focused considerably on making sure that our cities are not only livable, but thrive. Whether it's in investments in mass transits, whether it's in UEZ funds, we continually see this philosophy that's so much different, that says we don't want to leave the cities to themselves, we want to leave people out on their own. That's not an agenda for people who literally believe that we're all in this together. When we look at this frightening thing today, and hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully the success of our federal legislators and your efforts here today and a collaborative voice make it so that this fear that we undergo today in terms of one meal versus two, opportunities for less infrastructure. Think about the things that are at risk here today. How many of us know somebody that's been helped by the opportunities for affordable housing? A lot of hands going up. Opportunities for rehabs in their homes. We want people today to be able to live in the city that they grew up in. Opportunities for first home buyers. And for some of us that are nearing that age, not you, Jamel, but for the rest of us, that adult daycare opportunity for independence for seniors. Right? All those sort of things that make a difference in the quality of life each and every day are under siege. And today we focus on one particular part with the grants. CDBG money is so vitally important. And for the things I just mentioned and so many more, and it's not just aesthetics, it's not just a streetscape. It's an opportunity for people to make investments in cities which help all of us thrive and grow. Now here in the city of Elizabeth, as Assemblyman Holly mentioned, and frankly all of us know, it's a national example of what can be done. Spent appropriately, spent intelligently. I'm looking at that sister from Josephine's place, the work that's done there, opportunities with CDBG money that make that work possible. What kind of president and what kind of philosophy believes that this is somehow the best way for America? This doesn't make America great, it makes America less. And we all shouldn't be part of something that diminishes us all, because we're all in this together. And the final thing I'd like to say is this. I cannot, for the life of me, understand how anybody could cut a Meals on Wheels program. If anybody's ever been a part of it, if anybody's ever watched a senior get their meal, I'm standing in front of the county manager who literally gets petrified about how the opportunities are to deliver Meals on Wheels in the snow and inclement weather. Freeholders who work tirelessly to make sure that those opportunities are there. This is a governmental partnership that's been successful since probably the most Republican president in history, Richard Nixon, who created it. So Trump could learn a little bit from it. but together we can grow a little bit from it because we'll continue this fight to make sure that this does not happen. I thank our federal legislators and thank you, Mayor, for your leadership on the issue.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. Good to be Senator. You've already heard from Assemblyman Jamel Holly, and there's 2 representatives in the State Assembly, and the representative from the City of Elizabeth has been a staunch supporter in Community Development Block Grant, someone we've always turned to when we've needed help in the State Assembly as well. And that's an Assemblywoman from the 20th District, Ms. Annette Quijano.
Good morning. Good morning. I'd rather be here talking about the success in Elizabeth of the CDBG grant. I kind of fell off my chair when I heard that the president was thinking of eliminating such a program. This program is 43 years old. It strengthens our communities in affordable and accessible housing, child and health care, senior citizen programs, and infrastructure improvements. When you look at the list, how can someone cut adult literacy program? I always tell everybody, don't sign anything unless you've read it. If you can't understand what you're reading, then what will happen? People will take advantage of you. These programs are safety nets, and they're so important to the community. You look and you see emergency rental assistance. Well, guess what? New Jersey, it has the 2nd highest foreclosure rate. There are people who never thought that they would be in this situation, and yet are. And as government, we should be there to help individuals. The CDBG grant program helps, supplements what the City of Elizabeth values, what safety nets the City of Elizabeth values. And it helps our neighbors, our residents, which is what the City of Elizabeth values. When you continue to look down the list, employment training, we want individuals to get trained. We have companies that are closing. We have companies that are now hired technology, and they're not providing that needed training for individuals to be able to apply for such jobs. You have family stabilization services, health service, homeless shelter operating costs. How can you cut any one of these programs? You also have victims of domestic violence. We have youth counseling, education and environmental education, leadership for the youth, and youth music and arts program. It's so important as budgets are being cut that individuals and our neighbors can get such services. I stand ready with the mayor, with my colleagues in the 20th Legislative District, with the Assembly, and with every partner here to fight this. Because let's be honest, this presents and represents the values we hold important. The person that occupies the White House does not. And we have to make sure that he understands how important each and every one of these programs are. To say one person will eat and the second one doesn't, how do you do that in America? That's not who we are. And so we have to demonstrate to the president and everyone else who thinks this is a good idea that it's not, and that it's not acceptable, and that the people of Elizabeth and throughout the country, we are not going to accept it. And so thank you for letting me speak. This should not have happened, and we're ready to fight.
Thank you very much, Assemblywoman. You've heard from Senator Booker's office. Senator Menendez has also been a great supporter of this, and I know Mr. Zachary Reinhardt is here on behalf of Senator Bob Menendez. Zach, if you'd like to say a few words on behalf of the Senator.
Mayor, community activists, elected officials, and all those in attendance, I regret not being able to be here. The Senator's in Washington right now, to deliver these remarks in person, but I want to convey this message loud and clear. We need to preserve CDBG. These grants empower cities, counties, and states to launch locally driven projects that spur private investment and economic development. Nationally, over 1,200 state and local governments put CDBG to use in ways that make real differences in people's lives. Communities like Elizabeth use these grants to support infrastructure, provide affordable housing to elderly and disabled residents, to keep students off the streets and during school, and so much more. All these public funds don't go unmatched. Every $1 of CDBG leverages another $3.65 in other private and public investments. That's the definition of a good bang for your buck. In 2016, New Jersey received $81.3 million in CDBG funding. President Trump plans to reduce that number to zero. So take that in for a moment. $81.3 million, the president wants to move it to zero. New Jersey's communities leverage CDBG dollars to support children's music and arts programs, to repair dilapidated housing, to train workers, to fund youth mentoring programs like Big Brother and Big Sister, to renovate senior and rec centers, to help juvenile offenders get back on track. Some of these funds even go to support, as many have said, Meals on Wheels. And just recently, I joined some volunteers to help deliver food to elderly New Jerseyans, including an elderly woman in her 90s who still lives at home. You take away that vital meals program, and you take away her independence. And guess what? That doesn't save taxpayers a dime. It drives more seniors into nursing homes paid for by Medicaid. Mayor, you know all of this. You are one of the many mayors across New Jersey and throughout our country who has leveraged CDBG funding to spur development, attract investment, and expand opportunity. You are one of the many who use CDBG to do these vital and important tasks, like counseling at-risk youth, creating summer jobs, helping families gain security with credit counseling, building sports fields so that our kids have safe places to play and practice. The truth is that when you eliminate the Community Development Block Grant, you do more than cross out a single line on a ledger. You deny communities the dollars that take projects from blueprints to groundbreakings, that get children off the streets and into after-school activities, that bring communities from adversity to prosperity. There's no denying that when cities and towns leverage this funding in smart ways, they change lives. They can tip the scales in favor of graduation and against dropping out, in favor of finding a job and against unemployment, and in favor of affordable housing and against homelessness. We must speak out. We cannot let the callous Trump budget become a reality. It's far too important to our state, to our communities right here, and to our country. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Zach. Give Senator Booker and Senator Menendez our best wishes, and thank you very much. This CDBG program could not be possible without the support of Union County as well. County Manager Al Fiella is here, and Deputy Manager Amy Wagner is here, but there's also freeholders that are here. We're fortunate enough to have two from the city of Elizabeth, but I want to recognize freeholder Betty Jane Kowalski as well for a nod. Thank you, freeholder. And I'd like to ask the two freeholders from Elizabeth to say a few words. First, the Vice Chairman of the Union County Freeholder Board, Mr. Sergio Granados.
We're here to gather together because in Union County, 19 different municipalities receive funding from the county. And every single municipality throughout Union County is being affected by this. Just putting some figures together, CDBG has provided $168.5 million in support to Union County residents since 1985, including $5 million last year alone. Since 1992, Union County has received $25 million in funding through the Home Program. Home funds have allowed Union County to have expanded access to 848 units of housing, including 330 units of senior housing, 166 units through home buyer assistance, 71 units of special needs housing, and 281 units of low-income housing. These programs are vital to our residents. You know, Mayor Bowick said something before that's still sticking with me now, is that President Trump didn't do the grassroots due diligence of seeing residents and seeing how this is affected. Well, this is one of the locations that as you're walking in, you see what CDBG dollars go towards. It goes to helping out local residents. It goes to making sure that everyone has the equal opportunity and everyone has a chance at a better life. And that's what we're here to do as elected officials, as residents, is making sure that our voices are heard and knowing that everyone knows that CDBG dollars aren't something to be played with. It's something that affects everyone's lives and makes a true impact in our communities. Just before I call Freeholder Estrada, you know, Chairman Bergen has something, when he went to go meet up with the Washington elected officials last week, he made a statement, and I think it still rings true today. In closing, Chairman Bergen, words were these. These programs affect people's lives. These programs make a difference. These programs will be something that, if exhausted from our funding within the United States budget, it's something that's going to have an everlasting impact on our residents. And with that said, we must say no to President Trump. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you you very much, freeholder. We're fortunate to have two freeholders from the city of Elizabeth. I'd now like to introduce the senior member from Elizabeth, freeholder Angel Estrada.
Good morning. I'm very relaxed today. I have my shirt sleeve because I'm ready for battle. You know, I wasn't prepared for any comments because my vice chair here was scheduled to do this, but reality is that our philosophies between ours and the White House is very different. And unfortunately, for an individual who's of what I consider a very hefty background in terms of money, probably has had never a need for any assistance whatsoever. And that's something that is very important because the message is not getting through to the elected officials in terms of the impacts that these things make. The other side of the coin is possibly that this is all part of a strategy to bring down, say, well, you're not going to get anything, all of a sudden, all we're going to get is 10% or 50%. And that's totally unacceptable. My friends, if we don't stick together and work toward resolving a big difference or a big misunderstanding, it behooves us to continue in this fashion. There is no doubt that the best spent dollars in this county, in this city, which I'm very proud of, is CDBG. Every single dollar is multiplied. Listen, folks, we wouldn't have any apartments fixed, renewed, for the purpose of those people who are either homeless or about to become homeless. We get calls every day with people that are losing their properties through no faults of theirs. It was the banks who created this problem, and now we all pay for it every single day. And there's more issues because this is not the only one, CDBG, but today we're going to concentrate on that one. But let's be resolved about this issue. We're not going to accept it, and we're going to move forward and do what we have to do to make sure that at least that we get funded to the same levels of 2016, even if he has to come away from the military. And I mean that sincerely. And I've always considered myself an individual who's very conscious of our military and our needs in the world, but folks, our people need it as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, freeholder. The partnerships that we have with the Union County Freeholder Board is absolutely exceptional, and we thank them for their commitment to the Community Development Block Grant. I'd now like to introduce the President of City Council for a few words, Councilman Carlos Torres. I also want to recognize, I think, Councilman Kevin Canary is here. Thank you, Councilman, for being here as well. President of City Council, Councilman Carlos Torres.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to thank you all for joining us here today. The Community Block Grant continues to transform many lives throughout our city and our country. One of the areas it supports and provides is critical assistance to our affordable housing. As a populated urban municipality, we often face with land limitations in regard to development availability. It also helps the homeless prevention here in the city of Elizabeth, which are hosting today. They do a wonderful job with the Community Development Block Grant money. The homeless prevention and emergency shelter efforts are assisting residents in keeping families together and saving lives. That's what it's all about. As a former president of a Pop Warner team, I know the direct results of receiving that money and what it does for our youth, what it does for our city. So to cut this will have a devastating effect on our country and our city. So I'm going to leave you with a little quote from Maya Angelou that she once said, was quoted saying, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." So again, I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to say a couple words, and we must continue to fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council President. You know, we have a lot of providers here and vendors who have taken advantage of the Community Development Block Grant Program, and one that we've worked closely with for many years is agreed to host this today. And I know I'm going to call up Linda Flores-Tober for a few words, but before I do that, Linda, we have to recognize Sister Jacinta, who is the founder of the coalition. Has done a great job for many, many years. Thank you for your commitment, sister, for the last 40-some 5 years that you've been running this program. You know, we appreciate it. Okay, Linda. Sorry, sister stole your thunder, but she's allowed to do that, right, Linda?
Thank you, and welcome to our humble abode on both Behavioral Coalition and the St. Joseph Social Service Center. These funds are about investing in the community. They mean that we matter. When I look around the room here, yes, we use considerable amount of funds for rental assistance, back rent, and getting people out of homelessness, but the other part of that is case management. And we can't do anything without the other agencies here who also are recipients. When I have a mother and child, we're counseling them about budgeting. We say, well, let's find 3 things to do. Go to the park, they have things going on. Go to the library, but if those places are shuttered, what will happen? Or they're not in walking distance, what will happen? If the roads aren't well done, then people will not have come here and bring their businesses, and then our folks don't have jobs. So all of these things work together in community so that we can help each other. If domestic violence shelter is closed, if the regular shelter is closed, where do we refer people? If someone needs help because they're having a problem with a landlord, what do I do? There's no legal services. Who's also being threatened on other fronts? So all of these things are so important, and if we can't invest in our communities, it means that the people don't matter. Our neighbors don't matter, the families that come to us that don't matter. And our families are working families. 78% of the people we serve are working poor. They matter. And so I think it's really important to understand that it's important to invest in the communities, and that's what these funds do. They don't invest just in some vague thing called community. It's people, families, people going to work, somebody you're seeing at the McDonald's or at the mall or at the daycare center when you drop your children off. And it all matters. We've used the funds, and I went back 12 years. We've served over 1,500 people with these funds. That's just these funds. People come to us every day, and my staff is right here, go raise your hand. And every day they see people who come in who are working, who are struggling to make ends meet, and either they become homeless and they're sleeping in your car, or they're almost homeless, and those funds save the day. But then we need the other services to surround them, make sure that they have everything they need so they can survive. So yeah, we need to fight for these funds. We can't say no. No is an unacceptable answer, as I tell my children. And so we need to take that mantra on too. The no is just not acceptable. We need to fight for these funds. And all of us need to fight. Every person in our families, our neighbors, we need to get everyone to stand up, our staff, and say, no, we need these funds. Our communities matter. And I think it's right when one person here said that, number 45, call him a number since we're just a number, that we are, he's never been in Elizabeth. He doesn't know what it's like to live here. He doesn't come here and see the lines of people looking for food or coming here in our back. When we have sometimes, one day, I was told last week, I was on vacation last week, we had 20 people standing in that little waiting room, waiting to be helped, many of whom were homeless. They don't see that and look at it in the face. And then when we have to refer someone to a shelter, if the shelter's not getting funded, where do we send them to? If we're not building affordable housing, which is a dire need. We're at like a crisis point right now for affordable housing. We're not investing in that. Then where do people live? We can't just send people and float them on a barge on the Arctic Hill, as I say. We have to give them a place to live. A decent place. So these funds matter very much, and it's very important that we all fight. And I appreciate all of the folks who are here today saying that they are going to fight, because that will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. I think you've heard it best from Linda on behalf of many of the providers that are here today, and the way she talked about the need for these services. And I thank all of you for coming out here today. It's extremely important. Every year we celebrate the success of CDBG Week during the month of April, and every year we highlight the successes of this program. This year it's a plea to Washington. And I got to tell you though, Senator Menendez and Senator Booker and Congressman Series, who represent us, aren't the problem. They're part of the solution. we need to reach out to some Republican members in this district. I met with Rodney Frelinghuysen in Washington a couple of weeks ago, who's chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and one of the best things he said to me is, I don't think the budget that passes the Congress will look like the budget that the President has authored. What's important to know about that statement, though, is we need to get things like this back in the budget during this great debate. I want to thank Al Fiala and the County of Union and their great staff for implementing community development throughout the 21 cities of Union County. I want to thank Eduardo Rodriguez and the staff in the city of Elizabeth for implementing CDBG throughout our city. And I would encourage all of you here to reach out to Congress somewhere, somehow, and show your support for the Community Development Block Grant, that we need this to remain not only in our city, but throughout our county and our state and the entire nation. And thanks for coming out today.